When we're in our addiction and chasing dopamine, we do not see the damage often that it is doing unless it's super extreme. Sex addiction and porn addiction can be a life-threatening, severely debilitating addiction for some people, because I see those people in my practice and they come in and they are not functioning. They are not sleeping. They are not going to work. They are not accomplishing their life goals. They are in trouble with the law and they are contemplating suicide because of their pornography, sex addiction, compulsive masturbation. So this is not just, free to be you and me lifestyle choice. Mm-hmm. This is serious. Having said that, that's probably maybe about 10% of the population. And then you've got a whole bunch of other people who can probably take it or leave it or use it as a recreational drug. And that's true for any drug. But here's the deal. Again, we all have our own separate lock and key. And for the person for whom pornography is their drug of choice, it can be a really serious addiction. I talk in my book, Dopamine Nation. I open with the case of a patient who had a very severe pornography addiction. I talk about my own addiction to romance novels, which progressed over time to erotica, which is basically socially sanctioned pornography for women. And although I had a very mild version of it compared to, my patients, it was still real. It interfered with my ability to be the mother I wanted to be the wife that I wanted to be the doctor that I wanted to be. Furthermore, it's really important to note that what happens with pornography, as with any drug, is that over time we need more and more to get the same effect, or we need more potent forms to get the same effect. And this is very true in pornography addiction. People will start out with kind of like, average images. But over time, their fantasy life and the images will need to be more potent in order to get the same effect. And it can progress to a point where people are then, consuming images that really are quite deviant and are inconsistent with their values and maybe even illegal. And now we're talking about seriously crossing a line, but this is the natural progression of any addiction, again, that you need more potency. So I'll have patients come in and say, well, do I have like a paraphilia or a sexual paraphilia? And I'll often say, it's not that, it's that you're addicted. You started out looking at this, and now 10 years later, you're having to look at that because what you were looking at 10 years ago isn't going to work anymore. For me, it wasn't until I gave up romance novels and erotica for a month that I was able to get out of that compulsive vortex, look back and say, oh my God, that was really weird. Like my focus got so narrowed on that one type of pleasure. All these other things in my life that have been a source of pleasure for me were no longer enjoyable. Why? Because my pleasure-pain balance had been usurped by this drug, and I was chronically tilted to the side of pain in a dopamine deficit state when I wasn't using. So of course, my husband no longer seemed interesting to me. My kids no longer seemed interesting to me. My profession no longer seemed interesting to me. But when I stopped and those gremlins got off and I was able to restore baseline dopamine levels, this happens all the time in clinical care. People will get out of their addiction, and it usually only takes about a month if they're able to abstain on their own, and look back and feel a kind of surrealness at the person that they were and the amount of time and energy that they put into using their drug. So for your viewers out there who feel like it's no big deal, I'm not addicted, what I would suggest to them is the experiment that I suggest in my book, which is to stop using pornography or whatever their drug is for 1 month. To know that in those first 2 weeks, they're going to experiencing the universal symptoms of withdrawal, anxiety, irritability, depression, craving to use. But if they can make it through a whole month without using, they can get to that place where they've restored homeostasis, other things are enjoyable again. And most importantly, to this question, look back and really say, wow, do I really want to use in that way? That's kind of strange. I really was over-invested in that behavior.